like mixed together.
Oh,
like
yeah,
arroz con pollo.
Arroz con pollo. I love
She
it.
makes it,
I
she
know
makes it
you.
with beer.
You did like this to me that day. He's like, smell that.
And whenever she makes it, I'm like, I'm making a big pile. I want to eat that for days.
Yeah.
I
My,
eat that for
when my
days,
wife makes
bro.
arroz con gandules, that shit lasts 3 days in the
I
house.
love it.
I just had the rest of it last night.
You know what she makes? Oh, you know what my other favorite thing she makes?
Pollo
Paella.
Oh my God, dude.
She's Cuban, so she.
Hey, you guys can hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
All right. What do you guys see on my screen? Do you see the
link.
slideshow?
No, I just see a link drive.
Lake Drive, yeah. My link
Okay,
is
good,
on.
good. All right.
Oh look, I see my
Perfect.
name up
Sorry about the delay. Well, it wasn't actually much of a delay. My computer was giving me some trouble, so it worked out though. All right. I'll give a few more minutes for everyone to gather in, and then we'll get started.
Sounds good.
How's the audio? You guys can hear me good?
Yes,
sir.
Yep.
All right.
Ya, entró. Sí. I keep laughing yesterday all day with one of the was 18-inch. I had it and it slipped and it broke.
Oh, what? Elbow?
Yeah, because I was talking about, I was
Those
talking,
things break so easy.
I was talking about Matt. They fucking, I had him not now. The white Matt. Fuck,
He reacts the same way that Matt does.
he goes like this. He's like, he gave me a back of elbows one day, so I just tossed it to the side. He's like, oh my God! Like,
No, but for real, you can't throw that shit around. Those things break like.
No, but his exact
one
reaction.
Broke, one broke.
Oh my
One
God.
broke, right? And I was like,
He does that. He's like,
and I was like, all right, I'll put it back together. He's like, you can't put it back together.
Yes,
He's
you
like,
can.
I tried for years.
Oh my
Isaiah-
God.
Isaiah-
I've done it before.
Isaiah's looked at him, was
If
like,
you really want to get it done, you
I'll
can
take
do it.
care of it. And he's like, you can put it together. He's like, man, I've been doing this for years, and I never got to put it together.
That's because
Isaiah's like, look.
He's still trying.
yeah, man, you could do it.
You pop that right back here, yo.
how about his reaction, bro?
Yeah, man. And
Yo,
yo, that guy belongs in Disney World, man. I told him that plenty of times.
Yo, either that or like I said, he would have been a good used car salesman. Hey,
Yeah.
buddy. Hey. I'm like, all right.
You look good in this.
What's your angle, bro? Like, I don't trust nobody. It's just, you're too nice for no reason. Nobody is like this.
That's nice Piper.
Guys, it looks like you guys are doing a good job signing in. I got 12 people actually 11 people present. If I'm gonna read off the names. If I miss anybody, let me know. Just so we know if we have anybody that's not signed in yet. Tell you what, actually even better. Anyone who has not signed in yet, make sure you sign in using that QR code.
Oh, QR. How about that Mitsubishi?
Everything right here.
Do we have anybody that's logging in remotely? Besides, who I see here, I see Mike Sasso and Lev. Are they?
Yeah, Mike, Lev, and myself, Chris.
Okay.
We are remote. One other person he's sick. I don't know if he's well enough today to join in. I gave him the link, so he might not join in.
Okay, I'm sorry. And you are
Chris.
Chris. All right, Chris. Nice to meet you.
I just had it.
All right, so I do see Mike and I do see Lev on here as well. So I think we're in good shape for signing in. Okay. All right. I mean, are we? Is everybody here? Looks like. Do you think we're missing anybody, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, we're missing, Jose was supposed to be here.
Okay. We can wait another 5 minutes if you think.
Well, no, he's the guy who's supposed to be logging in remotely, but he might not because he's sick, so.
Gotcha. Okay.
Other than that, I think, whoever's here is here.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna get started. All right. So I mean, first things first. Obviously, this page is probably the most important page of all because it's the contacts. So number one being link drive, which we'll talk about it again. But that's Mitsubishi's website. That's for all your manuals. That's for your install service manuals, which is very important. Submittals, operations manuals, everything is on that website. No login required. Free to go on there, free to download stuff. Next would be Mitsubishi's technical support number. That is Mitsubishi's number there, 1-800-433-4822.
We're on slide two.
Should I?
We're on slide
What-
two, not
was
slide
that?
one. We're on slide two,
Oh.
not slide one. So we're not seeing any of the things you're talking about.
Oh, you guys will.
All we're seeing is M-P-series installation.
Huh. What about now?
Nope.
Same.
Same.
That is weird. Alright.
But still same.
Let's see.
You're not seeing
What about, okay, how about this? I'm gonna move up a few slides here and see if you guys can see that. You see installation?
No, they,
There you go.
Okay.
My-
What about now? You have that the
Yeah.
original page up?
Yeah, you're doing great. We got it.
Okay, good. Alright, so, alright, my name is Andre. I haven't introduced myself yet. My name is Andre Correa. I'm the technical support specialist for Mitsubishi for basically southern Northeast. I cover a lot of territory. But that's my phone number and my email address up at the top there. If you guys need to write it down to contact me in the event if you have any troubleshooting support you need. Along with that is Justin. He is my coworker that also covers the same area. If you can't get a hold of me, you can try him. And then, of course, you have Mitsubishi's number at the top there. If you need to get a hold of somebody and you can't get a hold of anybody and you want to wait a little bit, call Mitsubishi. The one thing I'll say that's of importance to calling Mitsubishi first is to get a case. How many of you guys have you guys done Mitsubishi before?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right, so you're very familiar with it. So yeah, I mean, it's important to get a case number a lot of times because, if the job gets heated, the end user, wants to sue or, it's something crazy. That's usually when I get involved. Actually, we got somebody looking to get on. It's always good to have a case number. Mitsubishi usually can't make any moves without having a case number. So it's not a bad thing, even if you call Mitsubishi, get a case number, and then try calling me or Justin. Not a bad thing at all, because they can just tell them, hey, I'm all set. At least you got the ball rolling. So about me, I work with Holman's Associates. I'm the Mitsubishi area tech support, Mitsubishi representative. Go by different names, I guess. But yeah, like I said, you can call me, text me, email me. I'm usually pretty readily available. And as far as my background, I was in the field for about 11 years doing commercial service and install. Justin was roughly about the same, so we do have field experience. I've been doing this for about the past 10 years, doing just Mitsubishi work. Now, as far as you guys go, are you install and service combined, or do we have separate divisions?
Combined.
No,
No.
we're
What's that?
installers. No,
Installers.
We're
I'm the only
installers.
combined. The rest.
Okay, gotcha. So mostly installers. We got one guy that does a little of both. Okay. All right. Good. All right. So we're gonna get started here. Obviously, put your cell phones on vibrate if you can, so he doesn't disturb anybody else in the class. Doesn't really bother me much because I'm remote. So hopefully we'll get through this pretty smoothly here. But we will have a break somewhere in between, about halfway. The class is about a 3.5 hour presentation. We might get it sooner. We might even lock it on in 3 hours. So, all right. If you guys got any questions, of course, feel free to give me, speak out or just try typing in the comments box if you can. All right. So today's presentation is going to be about M series and P series equipment. This is going to be our residential line and our light commercial line for Mitsubishi. First things first, it's mainly going to be an install oriented class. We do have service towards the end as well, though. We got some people here joining. Bear with me here. Okay, so we got somebody else that hopped on. All right, so we're going to be talking about in this section, install of the M series and P series equipment, we're gonna go over nomenclature, how to identify the model numbers, which you guys are probably already familiar with a little bit. So hopefully this is just gonna be more of a refresher and, maybe answer those unknowns. You got one. All right, so as far as nomenclature goes, I'm just gonna point out one main thing that you wanna keep an eye on here whenever ordering parts. You're looking at this. Does anybody see my mouse cursor?
No.
Yeah, in the
Do you guys see that swirling around the screen here?
Oh, no.
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 No? Okay. All right. Well, we'll get to this eventually here. All right, so right below the model number is your service reference number. That service reference number is the most important thing you want to get whenever you're ordering parts, because sometimes a model won't include a -2 or a -U1 or something like that at the end of it. So my best advice would be to just take a picture. Take a picture of the nameplate. This way you got it all. All right, so we're gonna go over M series nomenclature. If I'm talking about something and it doesn't look like you guys are on the same page, let me know. But right now you should see MXZ 8C48, correct?
Correct.
Okay, good. All right. Okay, so as far as the nomenclature goes, I'm just going to kind of hop through this here. All right, so M would indicate M series equipment. Sometimes it starts with an S as well. That also is still M series equipment, which is your residential line. Then the next prefix would be your type of unit, your style of unit. Is it an outdoor unit? Is it an indoor unit? And what type of indoor unit? Then you would have a Y for cooling only or a Z for heat pump. I get this question asked a lot. If you have a cooling only unit, can you make it a heat pump? And the simple answer is no. Can't do it. You would have to replace the entire condenser unit. Oftentimes you'll find the reversing valve inside the cooling only unit. However, it's not something you can just convert easily. All right. Next in line would be your number of zones. So if this is a multi-zone system, you would have an 8C here, or a 4C or a 5C. C is a generation. Kind of jumped ahead there. Previous to this one was the B generation, and previous to that was the A. So it's just going on in order. So probably the next one will be a D next year. Next would be your capacity size. This is usually the one I ask for the most if you guys call me. Obviously the model number is important whenever you call tech support, but obviously knowing the capacity is probably the biggest key there. So that's your capacity size, 48,000. 48 equals 48,000. N would indicate voltage for 230. We do have a 115 volt piece of equipment again. So you could potentially have a W there. And then A for A control, that's always going to be the case. We don't have any other style control communication. Last but not least is your model version. That is what I was pointing out earlier with the service reference number. Those -1s and -2s are super important for getting the right parts. You could end up with the wrong model. And then from there, if you do have a hyperheat model, it would end in the HZ for M series equipment. That would be at the end, the HZ. And that indicates hyperheat, which you guys are probably familiar with. All right, so P series. Have you guys done much on the P series side? Did you do any installs?
Yeah, we have.
Okay, all right. So yeah, P series, it's very similar, the way it's laid out, but P would be indicating that it's a P series piece of equipment. Again, the style unit that you're dealing with, we do offer cooling only still, as well in the P series lineup for a heat pump. Honestly, there's not much difference in cost. I'm very surprised people when they buy cooling only, but so be it. In terms of hyperheat, it would be indicated next, would be an HA for hyperheat. Capacity size, 42,000 in this instance. And then NH would be 208 to 30, which only voltage we carry. From there, we have model version. It's always going to be A as of now, but the 7 is the indicator of the generation type. So previous to the A7 was the A6, etc. We do offer also a BS model unit, which is basically a coating, a C-coast protection for the units. Okay, so mylinkdrive.com. Oops, sorry. I'll go back a step here. Mylinkdrive.com. So that website obviously is very important. Many different features you can get on there. Not only just manuals, but you can even get tech tip videos, YouTube videos. If you guys aren't familiar with how to set up a Kumo, the Kumo would basically video would allow you to step by step be walked through how to set up a Kumo controller, Kumo device. So as far as disclaimers go, that's usually the first thing you'll find in the manuals, in the install manuals. If for some reason you guys get pinned to a corner with the end user and they're saying, well, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to do that? You know, kind of the legal stuff is always going to be in this disclaimer section here. So if you ever need to find something as to why we need to elevate our units, you know, about a foot above the ground, it's going to be in there. Not many people read that stuff, but usually when they're in trouble, they go back and read those things. Okay, some of the most common pitfalls that we deal with during install is going to be listed out here. So, I mean, first things first is wiring. That's probably the first number one I get calls on. It's just incorrect wiring. Electricians oftentimes do most of the wiring for us. And that can lead to a lot of issues because the electricians are unfamiliar with our equipment, unfamiliar with the installation practices. So I don't know, do you guys typically sub out your work for electrical, or do you have your own in-house electricians?
We do in-house, especially the communication wiring between
great.
the units. We do in-house, yeah.
Great. Okay, yeah, that eliminates a lot of the headaches, you know, having it done in-house. But you know, look out for that. Obviously, if you're dealing with a system that's having communication issues, you know, first and foremost, you gotta look at your wire. Insulation of the piping. That's a huge one. A lot of people just, you know, they kind of put it off to the side and ignore the fact that even the smallest cut in the pipe could lead to a leak and a callback. So obviously, we want to avoid those up front. Make sure everything's nice and tight, insulated properly. I've been to jobs where the entire indoor unit has been replaced because it was leaking, and it was something as simple as insulation up in the attic had a break in it, and it was causing the water to trickle down the pipe in between the pipe and insulation and cause a leak at the head. So it's crazy how something so simple can amplify so big. Improper flares, that's probably my number 2. Just having the improper flares done. You know, you guys are the installers. It's the number 1 priority. If you guys get it done right from the start, for the most part, this is going to be a trouble-free system moving forward. These systems are pretty much bulletproof as long as the install is done properly. There's not much that can go wrong if it's done properly. And that starts with flares, having the right flaring block, making sure you put lube on the flare faces. When I say lube, I'm talking about POE oil. If you don't have POE oil, just a light coating would do. But if you don't carry that in your trucks, even just vacuum pump oil is adequate. Just make sure you put it on the face of that flare before you put those flare connections together, the nut. If anybody's got any questions, you know, we can talk about it after or talk about it now, but I'm going to keep going here. Condensate, improper condensate drainage. Honestly, the biggest thing I see with condensate would be that flexible tubing for the condensate that oftentimes is used for your wall mounts. So just be careful with that, especially when you're roughing it in behind the wall before they put the sheetrock walls up or something. You know, be careful because that stuff obviously flexes. We don't want traps because the water's not going to drain. You know, it's flows downhill, and we don't want any traps in the piping. Improper line set selection. That is a huge question I get asked a lot. When it comes to line set sizing, you know, whatever the indoor unit requires for piping is what it's going to be for the field piping, going back to the condenser. The condenser may not have the proper connection size for that indoor unit, so you're going to have to adapt to get it to fit, get it to mate with the condenser. But it's always going to be whatever the indoor unit size is what it's going to rule. And you can't do anything different than that. If you do larger pipe sizes because it's already existing piping, that can lead to issues with the compressor. They can lead to oil return issues, among many other things with charge. So line set selection, make sure you got the right one. Nitrogen purging. Hopefully you guys aren't doing a whole lot of nitrogen, lot of brazing on this equipment. I mean, if you can, I mean, if you do, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. It's just if you are brazing, you want to make sure you nitrogen purge the lines. I doubt you guys are going to be doing that a whole lot, but just be aware. You know, you do, and you should always nitrogen purge while brazing, and that's just a very light trickle of nitrogen through the lines, just to ensure it doesn't have any oxidation like you see in the above picture there. Basically the before and after, the before on the bottom and the after on the top, if they weren't purging nitrogen. You don't want that garbage in your lines. That's going to clog up all your strainers. Outdoor unit's not elevated. What do you guys typically use for condenser elevation?
Hats.
No, we use
Yeah, either brackets or the stand.
Yeah, the brackets. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So you use like the wall brackets or the stand. What is the stand? Like that quick sling that like beige one?
Yeah, or a custom one we make, yeah.
Okay, all right, good. All right, yeah, I mean, I would say in all cases you should just have those stands. I mean, even if it's cooling only, it's best just to put it on a stand, just so it doesn't get, snow doesn't interfere with it, and it keeps it clean underneath. Less likely rodents are going to go crawling in that unit if it's not directly on the ground. So, yeah, make sure those stands are, the stands are huge.
Oh, shit.
Okay, so we like to view the installation process as 6 steps to a successful install, and we're going to be covering those one at a time here quickly. As far as the installation goes, we have site selection, indoor unit installation, basically the equipment installation, indoor then outdoor. Then you got your wiring, and then from there it's dealing with the piping. So you got your leak test and evacuation, and then finally charging and test running the equipment. Right? So step 1 is going to be the site selection. So just because it may have been laid out some way, you guys in the field may find, you may find something that wasn't there initially. So you obviously got to, use your eyes and ears and pay attention to those things, like starting with the surface area. Is the surface level and sound? We have I get a call. I get about a half a dozen calls a year just in regards to noises that the indoor units make. If the units are not mounted on a level, flat surface, they will make a ticking noise. They will make some funny noises, especially wall mount. I'm talking about wall mount units here. Plaster walls are notorious for that. So making sure you have a nice flat surface is key. So it's easy enough to check. Just get a level. Just get a large level, like a 3-foot, 4-foot level. Put it across the wall there and make sure you don't see any gaps or the level doesn't rock back and forth. That's huge because these wall brackets will flex on the contours of the wall. However, when you hang the wall unit on there, it doesn't flex. It does not like to flex. So make sure that thing is completely flat. Structurally sound, I would say the big part with that would go towards the outdoor units just as much as the indoors. If you're putting a wall bracket up, I would not recommend putting wall brackets on any sort of wood frame structure. I would say put it on like a solid, concrete or stone foundation. When you put it on a wood frame, you're asking for trouble. You can get a lot of noise transmission that vibrates through the house. So just be careful of that. Obviously warn the customer if they insist it's to be that way. Just warn them. Say, hey, you might get some noise. You might get some vibration. As far as the indoor units are concerned, airthrow, making sure you're not recirculating the air, you're not tucked away in some corner where it's not going to get good air distribution. Airthrow, so you can get specs on airthrow from my link drive. If you go to the engineering section of the indoor unit, you can get distance that unit will throw the air, so you can properly place the indoor unit. And then, of course, last but not least, the one that people always forget, unfortunately, is service and maintenance access. I was a service guy, so that was a big pet peeve of mine, is having the service access there for me. You got to change that compressor on. You guys may have to own up on changing that compressor in the future, so just have it ready in case you guys have to ever go back and work on this thing, because we don't want to tuck it away somewhere and assume it'll never have a problem, because that's usually what it does.
Fantasy.
Okay, so now we need to look at controller location. What type of controller are we using? Maybe just as you're going through the, just the equipment, when you get it delivered to the job, just double check you got your controls. Make sure you have the right model equipment that it matches. Mistakes can happen. Maybe the delivery guy gave you guys a wrong unit. So having a quick check to make sure you got the right equipment, the right controls, you're not missing pieces, will lead to obviously a quick and easy install. Ruling those things out. As far as the controls go, it's pretty much, pretty typical. You guys already know, you don't want to put a thermostat in the middle of in front of a window where it's going to get affected by the sunlight. Let's say the bigger thing you need to look out for is the Wi-Fi. You guys doing a lot of Kumo lately?
We've done it. I wouldn't say a lot, but we've done it.
Okay, all right. So customers like to see this remote access. This is a big thing now. Like, I want to be able to see my house from Cancun. They'll probably use it the first week and they'll never use it again. But having that ability, you want to make sure that the Wi-Fi is capable of even reaching the device that you're installing. So make sure the head is in range of that. There's a lot of good applications out there that you can install on a phone that gives you an idea of the range of the Wi-Fi if it works. Just looking quick here, I think there's one called Wi-Fi Analyzer I actually use pretty often, and that's with Android. But there's a lot of them out there, and it'll basically tell you how strong your signal is for your Wi-Fi. If you have a distant location, maybe you should check it out, figure out where the router is, etc. As far as the condenser is concerned, you need to obviously look out for any obstructions, make sure the air can circulate properly, maintain the minimum clearances, which is always going to be listed in your install manual, what those clearances are at minimum. I obviously don't like to push the envelope here. I don't like to put everything to the minimum position, minimum clearance. Obviously, I always give it more. And then, of course, look out for where the compressor access and control cabinet access is, and make sure you give adequate space for that. That is usually listed out in your install manual as well. So here's your traditional wall bracket for your indoor units. Goes without saying, you obviously want to make sure you put enough anchors in there to hold this thing up. I just like to point out, make sure you get majority of your anchors on the hanging points of the unit. So you'll see the 3 across the top where the screws are located there. And then you have the 2 in the bottom where the clips are. Those are probably the most important of anything else, where you want to put most of your anchors. So many times I've seen these things hanging off the wall and coming off, especially on the bottom, because you get a lot of piping and you all get stuffed in there. So, even if you have to put a couple screws in there, 2 screws or whatever, so be it. Keep that thing nice and tight. From there, you also have your level spots. You can just go across those level points there, put your level on that. You can just put it on the bottom tray, making sure the thing is level. You don't pitch our units to one side or the other. I've heard a lot of crazy things, said from people, and I don't know where it comes from, probably other manufacturers, but yeah, just don't worry about anything, where condensate is supposed to go, just put the unit level. That's all that's important. Hanging for the other style units, like this, and in this example, we have a ducted unit. So you have 4 points of anchoring for the unit. It's going to be like a threaded rod, all thread, to hang it. And they usually supply the nuts and the washers. Excuse me, they supply the washers. They do not supply the nuts for that. But yeah, that's going to be to hang your ducted units. It's going to be similar on your branch boxes as well. right side up. I get about one call a year that the unit was installed upside down, so that blue condensate connection is at the top of the unit. This is our floor mount unit, and this is going to be, I mean, pretty much identical to your wall mount units, your high wall units. It's got a small wall bracket hanging on the wall. Even though it's a floor unit, it does technically have a wall bracket to hang it off of. I have heard some guys get creative and just fix it to the floor, but you know, technically it's got a wall bracket you can hang it off of. And then it just obviously sits close to the floor. This is going to be the PCA model unit. This is a P series unit. It's got a long throw, long coverage, long distance. It can blow the air. Not a very popular unit, but nonetheless, it's used a lot of times, like in hallways. It's a good application for it. But as far as hanging, you got 4 points of hanging with a threaded rod, sits tight to the ceiling. You got your return on the bottom. Fresh air intake is on the back side. This is a top view of our ceiling recessed model unit. Oftentimes people call it a ceiling cassette. This is the one that goes in the ceiling. You know, it's like in a grid shape. We offer two styles. We offer the smaller SLZ, which is a 2x2, 2 foot by 2 foot size that fits nice in a 2x2 grid. Or we have the larger ones for like your P series equipment, which is like more of a 3x3. In this example here, we have the P series model unit. They're indicating we have a fresh air connection on that corner. That is only the one spot we have the fresh air connection. And then we have the branch duct options connections on the sides. Just know that if people get the wrong idea that if you hook up a branch duct off this unit, you're gonna get a lot of air, and you really don't. Usually it's the engineers. They get the bright idea, oh, I'm gonna run this thing 40 feet to an adjacent room somewhere. Doesn't work that great. It's very short runs, it's low static, so just keep that in mind. It's not a high priority room. On the ceiling recessed, it comes with a gauge built into the cardboard, just in the packaging material of the ceiling recessed unit. So keep that in mind. Keep that cardboard. Look for that gauge that's supplied. It comes with a grill, and that gauge will basically help you set the height of the indoor unit, because it comes in two pieces. Of course, you got your indoor unit, and then you got your face, your grill. So install the indoor unit, use that gauge, out of the box of the grill, and then keep the grill out until you're done with the install, and then you can pop that in. As far as the supply louvers are concerned, you can select how many direct